Welcome to the Homeschool High School podcast, brought to you by Seven Sisters Homeschool.com and the Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network. I'm Vicki, and I am so excited to visit with one of our international friends. So this is Grietjie Thorne, and she is homeschooling in South Africa. So today we're going to talk about her adventures homeschooling and what it's like homeschooling in South Africa. So everybody, welcome, Grietjie, if I'm close to saying it.
Thank you.
So first off, we were on email talking earlier today, and it is March here when we're recording. Mm-hmm. So in the States, it's can't make up its mind whether it's winter or spring. So we got, snow one day and it might hit 50 degrees. And you mentioned it's summer there and it's
very, very much summer. I'm sorry, I keep wiping myself because it's so hot. It's 36 degrees centigrade here. So you're going to have to, figure out what that is in Fahrenheit.
It's pretty warm. Yeah.
It's very hot at the moment. So in the area where we live, March is our hottest month. Yes, so it's really insane at the moment.
It's great geography. We want our kids to learn geography and to know we have homeschool friends on the other side of the world and even the other side of the seasons. It's just completely opposite.
Completely different hemisphere as well. So
well, would you tell us about your family and what got you started homeschooling?
Sure. So I am married to an Australian who he moved to South Africa almost 30 years ago. And we met on a missions outreach in Kenya, which is in the other hemisphere of Africa.
Totally random. Yeah.
Yes, we got married and we have 4 children, 3 teenagers and an 11-year-old. And when I was pregnant with my eldest daughter, I met a mother who has been a very dear friend to me since then. And she had 8 children and she had been homeschooling. So she was really one of the pioneers in our country with regards to that. And just watching her children and, seeing the fruit of it, I knew that was what we were after. That's what I wanted. That's how we got started. There was never even a doubt in my mind. I was pregnant with my first when we decided that would be the right way for our family. And she will be graduating next year. And it's been just a hoot. It's been wonderful.
Oh, so you're a career homeschooler is what you are. Yes. Isn't it funny how God just brings people across our paths? And absolutely. Those are people that our life just changes in a different direction than we might have thought of earlier.
Yes. And he continues to do so, according to our needs and the seasons. Now with a house full of teenagers, I need community of mothers who understands what we're going through, in a 24-hour day and the moods and everything that carries on. So and the Lord just provides friends who just are in the thick of it with us.
That's such a blessing. All right. So I am curious, what is it like homeschooling in South Africa? Like, do you have really strict laws? Are there, easy guidelines? What is life like for you and your teens?
Okay, so how there's no one right way to homeschool.
Yes.
So that is true for us as well. Mm-hmm. So in South Africa, when you in the primary years, it's a little bit easier to maybe go more of an eclectic route.
Yes.
That is quite possible. But when it comes to the high school years, we have many exit options, if I can put it like that. And that will basically determine what you do for the high school years very, very much, because it's very different options. So if you are in the public school system here, you will be earning a government matric certificate at the end of your 12 years. Then for homeschool, there's also the private schools offer 2 different exit exams. It's the Independent Exam Board, and then there's also the British system, the Cambridge system, which is very, very popular here. Mm-hmm. And then many years ago, the GED also became an option for South Africans, your GED. And then in less recent years, more recent years, sorry, we also were given now the opportunity to follow an American high school diploma, which is what we chose for my family. So and my family is pretty much doing what an American child will be doing. And the GED is not readily available by many tertiary institutions in our country, where the American high school diploma and the British system, the Cambridge system, is very much recognized by our universities and other tertiary institutions. And then just now, on Christmas Eve, actually, just passed, our government signed a new law. It's called the Bella Bill. It's been very, very controversial. It has made grade R, which would be, I think, your kindergarten, the year before, right? That is now compulsory. And with the bill also came a whole lot of laws about trying to govern or to manage homeschooling. So we don't know yet. We have had to now register with the Department of Education, but that only applies to our children who are 9th grade and younger. The 10, 11, 12, we don't have to register at this point, but the younger children do. And it was done before everything had been sorted out. So now there's just a lot of friction between the homeschool community and the government, as we're all trying to figure out what do they want from us now. For example, they're demanding reports from us, report cards, which is not something many of us have ever done, because we've been following a more organic, eclectic approach, maybe something more in the line of Charlotte Mason. All of a sudden we have been put into this position where neither the Department of Education nor us really kind of know how to manage this yet.
Wow. So there's like not only the responsibilities of homeschooling your own kids, but then figuring out what the establishment wants from you.
Yes.
Yeah. It sounds like our early days in homeschooling is the each individual state had different rules, and sometimes it just didn't make sense. So
so we have 9 provinces in South Africa, and in each of the 9 provinces at the moment, we see the law applied in a different way. So they're not all interpreting it the same way. So in one of our provinces, the Department of Education is now demanding that the parents must be, they must be graduates, university graduates, and they must be able to supply proof of that. Where in other provinces, that's not something they're asking for. So we just don't know. We are all trying to figure that one out.
Yeah, so it's going to be a time of advocacy for you guys on top of homeschooling. Well, we will keep you in our prayers, because as American homeschoolers, we know what that is like. So especially as old timers. So, all right, now let's talk about in your house. So, there's not one right way to homeschool. And when you've got more than one kid, there's not one right way to homeschool each kid, because they all tend to be different personalities. So as much as you feel comfortable, kind of tell us what your teens are interested in and how you have found how to homeschool each of them.
Sure. So to make things even more interesting in my house, 3 of my 4 children have inherited their dad's severe dyslexia. So that also makes things fun. And so our eldest is very much neurotypical. She's academically very strong. And then there's my younger 3. All 4 of my children are extremely creative. So I don't think there's a person in our house that can actually do maths. But man, we can write stories, and we can put on plays, and we can draw, we can make movies. We do all of that. So the dyslexia is really, I think, if I look back over the past 17 years of being a mom, that has by far been the hardest thing. There's also a touch of ADD in the mix there as well. So it really is, it makes it interesting. And the challenge was that with my eldest, she was just this exemplary child. She slept through from an early age, and, she started reading early, and homeschooling just came so easy. And I
It was
thought
a trick.
it was a trick. It
Yeah.
was a trick. And we just thought we would just run with that, you know. And
Yeah.
then my second eldest, he's now, he's turning 16 later this year.
Mhm.
So he's 10th grade. And it just didn't happen the same way
Mhm.
from baby days. So
Mhm.
I have had to learn to adapt and really, really get to know my children and
Yes.
each one where they are at. And, you know, I mean, it just keeps me on my knees constantly,
Yeah.
just begging the Lord for wisdom and guidance. And like we said earlier, him just supplying friends in the
Yeah.
most amazing ways who
Yeah.
understands neurodiversity or
Yeah.
who can relate in other ways. And I'm so grateful for the wisdom of godly friends who understand what we're going through,
Yeah.
you know, and have walked the road ahead of us
Mm.
to impart their wisdom.
And the beauty of homeschooling is when you have a child who learns differently, like dyslexia or ADHD or anything, in homeschooling, we can find what works.
We can,
And so,
we
yeah,
can definitely.
one of my kids had really tough time with dyslexia and some ADHD. And you know, the just the gift of God of friends and support systems and
Yes,
resources. So that kid now is married, is a school teacher,
yeah,
he has his master's degree, but
that's
he found,
amazing.
yeah, he found ways like to listen to audiobooks
Yes,
and
same
you
for
know,
us.
just creative ways to get through the things that
Exactly.
weren't his gifts.
So my
And
10th grader is currently working through your, my children do your language bundles, your language
mhm.
arts bundles.
Aw,
And, you know, we were just so amazed to find that all the books for this year is available on as
on
audiobooks. So,
audio.
you know, he can carry on with his other interests, building
Yeah,
Lego and whatever he does. But
yeah.
he goes, he listens, and then because the modules are in PDF format and it's
Mhm,
fillable, he can
mhm.
then come back to the computer and he can just use speech to text to answer his questions.
Yes,
And, you know,
yes.
it's
Mm,
magnificent that
yeah,
this child does not have to physically go through the pain that it is for him to
yeah,
read and then
mm,
to struggle with the writing. So I'm
yeah,
so grateful that we live in this era where we can
yeah,
use technology to expand their worlds and that they don't have to be hemmed in by
yeah,
that.
yeah. If we have an open mind, we can look and God
We
will
can.
give us creativity and resources. Doesn't mean it's always easy. I remember
Yes.
my oldest, he was working on his graduate degrees and he wouldn't be full dyslexia, but read slowly.
Yeah.
So in those days, it's a few years back, they had a program that he could connect to his computer where he could scan the pages of his textbooks in and the computer would read it to him. So,
Amazing.
you know, there's you know, thank goodness for all the resources that we have now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the kids learn to live in their gifts. So your kids learn their creativity and so tell us some of the creative things your kids love to do.
Sure. Okay. So my eldest, she's actually a really gifted artist. I just can't get her to paint. She's into drawing and
Into
she
drawing.
prefers dip pen and ink. So that is
Mhm,
her thing. She does
mhm.
magnificent work with that.
Uh-huh.
Um, all my children love to read, even though they can't maybe physically read, but they, you know, they enjoy audiobooks since baby
Yes.
days, and they are
Marvelous.
storytellers par excellence.
Uh,
My 10th grader, he is, for example, and that is why we chose the American High School Diploma, because it just gives you
mhm.
so much scope to
Yeah,
incorporate their interests. So
yeah,
even when it came to something like science, for example, that was also something that it's just not his area. We were able to pick things that aligns much more with his giftings, you know. So
yeah.
applied engineering, things that look at creation and how, you know,
Mhm,
that was beautiful. But on
mhm.
the creative side, he is doing graphic design
Oh,
and he's doing stop motion animation. And his dream is to actually go and work in Denmark for Lego. So he is just
oh
dreaming
my
of one day
goodness.
being a Lego designer.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
this
Uh-huh.
child has a whole room full of Lego, but he never
Mhm,
follows the instructions.
mhm.
He'll build a set once and then he chucks it. He's not interested. He builds his own creations and, you know, just so creative. So bringing the stop motion in with that and then a little bit of graphic design and encouraging him. He's starting his own YouTube channel now, and we are just using all of that as learning because it's beautiful to
yes.
see.
Yeah.
And then he's very, very verbal, so he processes by speaking, and that has also made him a wonderful storyteller. So he will go on walks. We live on a farm, and he'll go for long walks during the day because that's his time when he tells himself his stories, and that's how he processes. And so that's amazing as well. And then my almost 14-year-old, I think she's going to turn into some sort of a designer. She's very much into animals, but she loves handicraft. So we can, we accommodate a lot of that into her learning as well. And then my youngest is a builder. He builds. He is out in the paddock building a radio control car track at the moment. So,
oh my goodness.
yes, so we are also tailoring his schooling to accommodate him. So he does better if whatever he's busy with is on the computer. So I sit with him and I work with him, but we are looking together at the screen. And for some apparent reason, that just makes it better for him. So that's what we do.
Yeah, yeah.
He has
And that's
free time
all
to
for the ways.
go and do. Yeah.
So your kids, and each one has different interests, and they're creative. They make things. How do you avoid the pressure of, like my kids need to look a certain way? Like your oldest was more traditional, kind of like this is my learner. Do you feel pressure in your South African homeschool community to be the perfect homeschool mom? That like I need to look or are y'all more relaxed and supportive?
No, we are much more relaxed. I think because there are so many options for us and everybody, does something different. I think there's a lot of acceptance to understand that everybody's homeschool looks differently. And there's a lot of support there. I think in my homeschool friend circle, we all follow an eclectic approach. There's hardly anybody I know that actually ever did like boxed curriculum. I think we all went through a bit of a, I nearly mentioned the curriculum, but there's a certain literature-based curriculum from America that we used to bring over. I think you guys also all went through that at one stage. But that was more, in the elementary grades. And then from there on, we realized, but no, our children are so unique. We have to make a unique path for each of them. So I think there's so much acceptance. I don't think I've ever been in a position where I felt pressure for my children to perform or to be a certain way, because we are all so eclectic. It's amazing.
Yeah. Praise God for the opportunities that we have.
Yes.
All right, I want to rabbit trail just a second, talking about curriculum. So we have a mutual friend, Meryl, and she has Funda Academy. But
That's
Meryl
correct.
is also from South Africa, although she lives in States
she's
now.
amazing. Yeah.
And so tell a little bit about what your family does with Funda Academy.
So with Funda, we will be doing her computer applications course. That is it's a final thing that I want my seniors to do in their final year, just before they go off into the world, to be very sure that they've got a good grip on all the Google applications and all of that, just before they start. The children know all these things, but I think sometimes they're not 100% clued up on what they might need at university or college level. So we just really want to work with the Funda course. I've researched many other options, and that one is by far superior. So well done to Meryl.
Yeah. Meryl is just a brilliant homeschool mom, but also just a brilliant leader. And I love the things that she does at Funda Academy, and also on the Homeschooling with Technology podcast. So
yes, definitely. No, I listen to that one as well.
So for folks who want to think about all the technology options, Meryl at the Homeschooling with Technology podcast is
absolutely.
Yeah.
Proud to be a fellow South African.
Yeah.
But asking about support and friends and things like that, and it was actually through your podcast that I first got the courage to pull together a community of teenagers, because my children were at that point, my daughter had just finished grade 9 with a lot of your curriculum, and she loved it. And my son was starting grade 9 or ninth grade, as you call it, the following year. And I was absolutely I had no idea how we were going to do his literature with him at that point. But because my daughter had done your language arts bundle that first year, and she had been exposed to some of the film studies, that got me thinking. And I thought, but how about if I make his first year of high school, for his literature component, everything movies, because that would be accessible for him, and it would be a nice introduction into, more serious literary analysis.
Yeah.
And so I decided on that. And once I had that in place, I thought, but watching movies is so much more fun if you do it with friends.
Oh,
And
yes.
then the Lord gave me that idea to maybe open it up and see if there would be other teens who would be interested in joining us, because by then we had made the decision that he would do film studies as his literature component, while my daughter would be doing it as an elective credit.
Neat.
So I decided to throw it open, so the two of them, and we had hoped for maybe 2 or 3 other friends, especially considering that we live far from town on a farm. So I didn't think there would be any takers.
Yeah.
Well, my class was 15 teenagers strong.
Oh my goodness.
It was absolutely amazing. It was wonderful. It was the best thing I have ever done in my homeschool for my children, was to start that as a community. And we set it up. I was listening to one of your podcasts on running co-ops, and one of you mentioned, I think it is Sabrina, who makes amazing chicken noodle soup. One of you mentioned that.
Oh yes, Cindy DeLaster and her chicken noodle soup.
Okay, was it her? Okay, I couldn't remember. And that just, it was funny how something so little can trigger something, because I thought, wow, noodle soup. So they ate together. So hang on. Yeah. So when I set this up, I organized it that the children would arrive an hour before we actually started with class, so that they could bring their lunch. And we have this massive oak tree on the farm, and we have garden furniture set out there. And I said, well, that's where you meet. We get together under the oak. And I had nothing to do with that after the first few weeks, because I stayed the first 2 weeks to introduce them, and then I could just step back. And that's where they built community. That was amazing, because you had these 15 strangers, and they just connected. And then they came inside and we did film analysis, and it was the best year of my homeschooling life so far. And that was just something that was born out of our using your language arts bundles. I would never have thought of using the movies as a literature component, and it was amazing. And it has set my son up so that this year, when he's doing actual books, he's fine. He knows what's going on. So that was really amazing. We ended the year big bash. It was like a Oscars themed thing, and everybody got their little statuettes, and it was just amazing. In fact, they enjoyed it so much that this year I decided to do the same thing with your human development curriculum. And all my students came back, and they brought their siblings. So now we are even a bigger class.
Oh my goodness. Oh, what a blessing is to find other homeschoolers and have fun together learning. And that's, our deepest hope is that homeschooling can be mostly fun. Yes, and if we have fun learning, it's makes life better. And if we can learn together with our siblings and friends, what a gift. And what a gift to us moms to watch that happen.
It's just amazing for me how it worked out. If you think of, so our academic year runs from January to the beginning of December. So we are just coming to the end of our first term now. We've got 4 terms, 2 semesters, but 4 terms. So we're coming to the end of our first term now, which means we have just about finished the first 3 chapters of human development. Now, I have a group of 17 to 19-year-old boys, and I had to give them these classes on baby development. I had no idea how we were going to pull that off. But the curriculum is amazing. And then because we already are such a nice, tight community, it was amazing to just see these guys get in. And we, 2 weeks ago, we had the Baby Olympics, where we took everything that we learned and we applied it in a competition where the teams would compete against each other in everything from, I had challenges where they had to be blindfolded and change a nappy. And we had one where they had to swaddle the baby and rock the baby while folding a pile of baby laundry in a set time. So they were competing with those kinds of things. It's completely silly, but because they love one another and because it's fun and because we've managed to successfully build this community, it is just incredible. And teenagers need to talk. They want to talk. I don't know a teenager that does not have something to say. They might be quiet, they might be introverted, but when we are in a group like that, and when we do the fun things and we then get to the deep things, they are willing to talk. They are not shy from, about sharing and asking and debating. So this past Monday, we were doing attachment theory, and we learned about attachment theory in the babies, and we watched some amazing footage of the experiments. But then we pulled back and we said, okay, but now how does that affect you? We were talking about what happens in the adult years and in their teen years. And they're not holding back. They want to talk and they want to hear other people's opinions and they want to think deeply.
You're making my whole day. Just to see teens come alive and to learn things that matter and to know that they can have fun learning, but also they can go deep.
Yes.
And that those things that they're learning can be thought-provoking and life awareness for them.
Yes.
So
yes.
Thanks for being that kind of mom. That's so cool.
I love it. It's
well, okay. So I'd talk to you for an hour. Yeah, we'll have to visit again
I'll
sometime.
enjoy it for an hour.
Yeah. Any advice that you would give a new homeschool mom? So if they're listening and anywhere in the world, is there a little bit of advice that you would give to a brand new homeschool mom?
Sure. I think especially when you're starting out, and especially if they're a little bit younger, but I think this applies to the older ones as well. But when they're younger, I always say there's two things. First of all, you take them with you everywhere. And you involve them in everything because the children learn so much, on the fly, whether you are at the grocery shop or whatever it is that you do, take them with you and let them talk to adults. I don't necessarily want my children to learn from peers because the peers are still figuring it out as well. But talk to the peers' parents because they are the people who are in the know and they have so much experience. So take your children with you everywhere. That was the first thing. And then, get a library card because there's nothing that you can't learn with a library card. And go regularly. And then, I think and this applies to the teenagers as well, be very open to the possibility that school doesn't have to look the way you thought it had to look or what you had experienced. Because learning can happen anywhere, in any way. There is so much that our children do already naturally because that's where their interests take them. That is much more valuable than, an academic grade for something. Yes, those are necessary depending on where they want to go and where they want to end up. But don't disregard the real life learning as less important.
Beautiful, beautiful. Can't say it better myself. Thank you so much, Grietjie, for visiting with us today. My heart is blessed, and I know everyone who is listening or watches the video or reads the blog post is going to be blessed. So God bless you all in South Africa.
Thank you. And thank you for thinking of us here and for all the amazing things that you do and for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Amen. So thank you for everybody for joining us. Have a great week. And this has been the Homeschool High School Podcast, brought to you by SevenSistersHomeschool.com and the Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network. Thank you to Seth Tillman for editing, and we'll see everyone next week.